Welcome to another episode of Humanly Plausible with your hosts, Roly and Richard from the Pink Collective.
So today with me I have Dave Kustin, who's filling in for Richard McCulloch. Big shoes to fill, but he's an old friend of mine. We've done work together. Creative guy, fun guy, and because when I was thinking, man, who can fill in Richard's, shoes, I was thinking like I got to find somebody that I can potentially have a crazy conversation with. Not that I want to have a crazy conversation because I want to bring that back with you, but
you asked for it.
So just give him a little heads up on who you are.
My name is Dave Kustin. I am the founder of Element M, which is a brand strategy agency. I'm a co-founder of Content Bacon, which is a content marketing subscription service.
Love that name.
Yeah, everyone loves bacon. Makes everything better.
Is that what you guys named the company?
Yeah.
That's good. So, Humanly Plausible, again, when I talked to you about it, Humanly Plausible was originally an idea that I had because we had all these great conversations with all these different people, and I was like, man, if we could just record some of these things, and I think that happens to us all the time.
Sure.
So that's what today is. So today we're going to pick something out of the box. I'll have Dave's information and contact on there if you guys want to hook up with Dave later on. That's your thing. But so we're gonna kick off today with it's in this box that I've kind of started to modify. I taped it up. It's still rough, but it's in the works.
There's something
there's things in there. So there's questions in there so before we used to write them and put them in there. And so now we have AI doing this for us. Yep. So it's a little, I don't even know what's in there.
There's a little AI machine in there?
Pretty much. So what I did is I did the prompt. I prompted, and hey, this is what the show, this is what it's about, blah blah blah, and then I asked for 40 questions, and then I took those and I just trimmed them out without really reading them.
Right.
So I don't know. Here we go. You ready? So you're gonna do the honors. You're gonna be the first one to pick for season 3. Here we go.
Well, it feels like a good one.
Does it? You got to read it.
What role does leadership play in shaping the communication practices within an organization?
This is a good one.
Want to read it again?
Of course.
What role does leadership play in shaping the communication practices within an organization?
So, for me, this is what it's been a trend in a lot of the past clients that we've been dealing with. Not all of them, where leadership, people start a business, and let's say you're a mechanic. You're really good at being a mechanic. You're not a really good. That doesn't mean you're a good leader. It doesn't mean you're a good business guy. Yep. When I first started my first company, it was, the passion was there, but I was a terrible business guy. Mm-hmm. I was terrible at financing. Yeah. I was fortunate enough that I got away with, the whole thing the way I got away with, in the sense that I was able to come out of that winning.
Sure.
But ultimately, what we're faced with, at least from our side now, in my experience, is that there's a lot of people out there running businesses that have no business being CEO. Sure. So I'll open up with that, and I'll let you take it from there.
Well, I'm imagining a few things come up. So first of all, there's, the book E-Myth? Mm-hmm. E-Myth kind of touches on your mechanic metaphor. Mm-hmm. I think in the book he uses a baker, and this, figure is good at baking, but she knows nothing about inventory and
right.
Customer service, promotion, marketing, whatever. So that, that came up for me as you were saying that. But also I think a lot of new first-time business owners, they model the leadership behavior that they came from.
Yeah.
Right. And so
parents too.
Parents.
It could be a dad.
All of it.
I never really thought of that. Yeah.
And, I'm just managing the way I was managed.
Yeah.
I parent the way I was parent. It's I think a similar construct.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of emotional intelligence.
Sure.
I've had folks on the show talking about The intern's saying you're too far from the mic.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so we're gonna be here.
Just because it's not pointing in this direction.
Got it.
Yes, so we want to make sure you're heard.
Yes.
So I was talking about emotional intelligence is a big thing because again, like I've seen situations where you have a great business model, like a great business, great team, but the CEO or whoever heads of state are toxic, and they're not growing their people. So I've learned the hard way because I've done it in the trenches, like most people, at least small business owners. But you realize ultimately you have to continue to develop yourself as a leader, no matter what position you're in. And I think that's always a continuous. I'm always reflecting on how I'm impacting people. And again, this is another reason why I wanted to put this, podcast together so people can hear, because I think there's a lot of people out there they're clueless. They don't know that they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, self-awareness and emotional intelligence, that's everything. I think even outside of business, just life. What are your thoughts on how, let's call it the younger generation, millennials in the workplace?
You want to bring the intern on?
He doesn't have enough context yet.
Not enough, yeah.
Let's say someone in their mid-20s, right?
Okay.
And I have people in my mid to late 20s that I've managed, and they're on the team, and I hear horror stories at the way they respond to leadership. Leadership doesn't always feel good.
Yeah.
That's just a fact of life. We got to take that hill, kind of thing, and may not
charge forward.
May not feel good to take that hill, but
you might be
taking that hill.
Yeah.
So, what has your experience been with? I'm going to indict an entire generation here of millennials in responding to strong leadership. There's weak leadership, and that's easy. That elicits some response, and then strong leadership elicits another response.
So that's a great question. So right now, and you know this. So the advertising world has been shifted. We went from having offices, and now everybody's kind of like, oh no, we're creative. We want our space. We're more inspired when we're outside the office. And it's true, because I'm the same way too. I could say the same. Like there's days I don't want to come to the office because I feel restricted. And so I can be empathetic towards that. One of the things, so I'm about to be 46. Birthday's coming up. So by that I mean that I'm growing more impatient. So that is intolerant. So I'm having to check myself often, pretty much on a daily basis, especially when I'm dealing with the younger generation, because they operate at a whole different level.
Yeah. Yeah. I listen. I have a 21-year-old at home, and so I'm familiar with the operating system, and I try to disabuse him of certain ideas because I don't think they will serve him well. Certain ways of being.
Yeah, but even in that same line of thinking, I go back to organizational leaders and them leading younger folks, right? Because, are we saying we just give in to how these people are? These people being the younger generation? I classify them.
I don't. My MO is to create awareness.
Yeah.
Coach.
Here's a good scenario. Remember when we had our discovery? I always bring the story up with that company. You know what I'm talking about?
I know, and I have a very poor recollection of this.
Well, really, I don't understand why you not remember this.
Tell the story.
No, so what I was going to say about that was that Dave and I and the Pink team were doing a discovery for a client, and then Dave is talking and going through his whole thing, and that dude, the CFO, comes in. Mm-hmm. This is already after 3 hours that we have been with their executive team, and he just starts asking us random questions. He was the one that said, "Who's Don Draper in this team?"
I guess that was me.
And no, you're just standing there bro, what are we gonna do right now? How are we gonna handle this? And then I basically told the guy he's being rude, and this is not the time and place.
Was that the copier company?
Well, I didn't want to be specific. You want to
I don't remember the name.
You want to shout out their name? Okay, good. Their letters, but we're not gonna. I'm not gonna have you say it. Okay. But you were calm and collected more than I was because I got super irritated. I thought it was extremely disrespectful. But my point is, so in that, this guy was in his late 60s.
Mm-hmm.
He ended up actually passing away from a heart attack. So, I didn't want to bring that up.
Rest his soul.
Yeah, for sure. Because sorry about that. But it just hit me now. I'm like, okay. But that's not the point either. The point was that the example you're setting as a leader, this guy is the CFO, was the CFO of the organization.
Yeah.
And now you're showing your younger team, this is cool, this is allowed.
Yeah.
And so obviously, the millennials are not that dumb and naive that they're going to be like, oh yeah, that guy knows what he's doing.
Sure.
But there's some that don't.
So back to the question.
Yeah.
How does, what role does leadership play in shaping? So, I feel like the way an organization communicates, the way an organization behaves, the persona that it takes on is directly from leadership, right? And so you can have a brand that's a really friendly brand. You can have a brand that's an a-hole brand.
Yeah.
And that comes from the top.
Absolutely. So, definitely, as far as what role, and I think this is something that, I just touched on it, the discovery part, we always want to understand from an organization's perspective, like, what are their values? Like, what are they about?
Yeah.
Because we always go through that process, no matter how you do it. There's people that do it different ways. But the point is that you have to understand that there's a mission in place, there's values, and there's a persona behind this organization, because that in the reality is that if that doesn't exist, then what are you mimicking? What are people mimicking?
Okay, so similar thought question. What do you do when you're working with a brand and it's full of assholes?
I don't even. You're season.
We can't curse on the show.
Season 3, and you're like the first one. That's fine. I knew Dave would.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a swear jar around?
Yeah.
So you're working with a brand. They're full of jerks.
Yes.
But your job is to portray or build a brand in the marketplace that is obviously not jerky. What do you?
Or maybe you are. There was that restaurant in Bayside, I think that was called
the Jerk Restaurant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dicks or something. I don't know. You're killing the whole thing, bro.
That's
That's great.
That's an exception.
Yeah.
Right. But you've had customers, you've had clients where the leadership is, they have a way about them that might be, narcissistic.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Not great communicators or unkind to the team. Yeah. But yet you're trying to create this brand persona outside of those four walls.
Absolutely.
How do you overcome that? What do you do?
That's been my moral conflict, in the sense of, like, I think this day and age, I think back 10, 15 years ago, I'm not going to, well, it's probably an extreme, but you could be a tyrant, evil person running the organization. And I think for the paycheck, or, I was willing to kind of look past that. I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Like, if leadership does not align with the organization, and especially what I believe in, then I'm not going to take the account. That's where Empowering Positive Brands came from.
Yeah.
Because that is my truth. And if I can't empower you to be better, then I can't work with you.
Yeah. So if there's misalignment with leadership and how they communicate, you won't work with them.
If they're not willing to improve, if they're not willing to improve, I think that then at that point, because there are people that are actually trying to make a difference, but they struggle with getting there.
Yeah.
I'm actually dealing with, we have a new client that kind of is on that road. It's not a toxic environment. It's actually a good environment, but the overall organization is just a little bit, what's the word? Not diluted, but just disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
There's not an ebb and flow,
sure,
to what they do. So, like, that's workable, because they're still trying to do good. Mm-hmm. They're still trying to grow their people. They're just trying to figure it out, and I'm okay with that. Now, it's funny, because never did I think that in the world of communications I would end up working and doing the stuff that we're doing with people. I feel like a business coach sometimes, which is weird.
Well, that's part of our role, right?
So
we have to coach our clients as to
100%. I love it. I like working with people. So
how to most effectively communicate.
Yeah.
Externally and maybe even internally.
Yeah.
It's all storytelling, right?
So final thoughts. Yeah, it is.
Final thoughts. So, much like when you're cleaning house, figuratively and literally, you must sweep the stairs from the top. Communication is the same thing. It comes from the top.
That's to me, and I'll piggyback on that. I agree 100%. I think that taking at least the first initiative steps to kind of understanding what's in the house. So you're cleaning house, kind of going through inventory of what's going on. And if you haven't checked yourself in a while, I think it's time to do so and see how you are. Maybe it's a survey or something you do inside just to get a feel for what people are doing. It's very important because I've been told by staff sometimes like how I've been treating them and how I make them feel, and I was totally unaware of that entire situation. So maybe it's time for you guys to kind of do that and clean house. I like that. Take stock. Yeah. So Dave, thank you for filling in. I think you killed it. I loved it. The great conversation, and I'll see you guys next time.